Hey, Hickok here again. I know these gun close-up videos are probably a little tedious for some folks, but if it happens to be a firearm that you particularly enjoy, then maybe it'll be somewhat interesting to you. Well, one reason I call myself Hickok 45 is one of my favorite calibers is 45, and I like the old guns as much as anything. What I thought I'd do in this little video is just give you a close-up of an old gun with some character. It's not a Glock, it's not polymer, not high capacity or anything, but even if that's your thing, the high capacity polymer guns primarily, maybe you'll appreciate a little bit about this old piece of iron. This is a Colt single action Army. Got some shooting of these in other videos. This is a close-up of the old 45 Colt single action Army. It's a 45 long Colt cartridge that it's called generally. Big chambers, as you can see. Half cock it all the way down, half cock, and you can see it's empty in those big holes. This gun was made in 1884, this particular gun, so no telling who's carried this gun. If it could only speak. You can see the number on the cylinder there, 3003, has a 3003 on the cylinder. There's a number on the barrel under the ejector rod housing that matches that. That in part demonstrates that this gun is intact. It's correct with all of its original parts, all the assembly numbers and everything. Nice old gun, even wear, but Colt Single Action Army, as I've discussed in other videos, if you're not familiar with them, it was adopted by the Army in 1873 in the longer barrel version, but then they soon after that began making shorter barrels. This is a 4 3/4, the shortest barrel generally that they made. There were some sheriff's models and some other things where they'd hack off the barrel a little bit more, but with the standard ejector rod and everything, the 4 3/4 was one of the three main lengths. 5 1/2 and then 7 1/2. This one's 45 Colt Caliber, as I said. It is an old gun. It's not a reproduction. Again, all the serial numbers match. You can tell in these old guns there's 3 places where the serial number appears, and it's pretty easy to check them. Now this particular gun, going back into 1884, is a black powder frame. As you might know, the only powder that was really used up until the 1890s, probably the late 1890s, was black powder. And that's why they call this a black powder frame. Up until sometime in the 1890s, they used a screw right here, as you can see there. That's how you took the cylinder out. That screw had to be taken out to pull the cylinder out. The little transverse bar here that you push on with a spring came about in the 1890s, and that's what you still see today, of course. But this is the old black powder frame. You take that screw out, it's not a big deal, unless you're fumble fingers. I'm trying to do this in kind of an awkward position. Get that screw out, and that releases the base pin. Gun's still on half cock. Pull that out, loading gate, and the cylinder comes out. Okay, so that's the cylinder, 2 pieces there, and you see the inside of the gun. How they look. A little oily ballistol. I use ballistol on my guns, and it jellies up a little bit at times, but it's great stuff. You can see it there. So see that big bore forcing cone, the 45 caliber there, how that shows up on the video. But it's still half cock. Now on these guns, as I've said in other videos, you want to bring the hammer all the way back before you ever let them down. You never let them down from half cock, in other words. You finish cocking it, then you bring it down. And there's really no damage done whether the cylinder's in there or not. That's irrelevant. Generally I leave it on half cock if I have that out. Okay. Parts, again, this is the ejector rod. You see that rod, how it pushes through there. That's what pushes your empties out. If the only place you've seen these are in westerns, that's how that operates. It pushes right through. And a better view up there maybe. You can see how it goes right into that chamber and pushes the case out. You rotate the chamber, do the next one. Pretty cool. And that's the ejector rod housing, covering that. Take one screw out there, and that comes off the barrel. The only damage on this gun is essentially that you see on a lot of these old guns, someone had to wrestle the base pin out there a little bit, so you've got a few marks right there. Other than that, it's just all normal wear, in really good shape. Original grips and everything. So let me stick this thing back together. Again. Okay. Base pin. Lined up, goes back in. Screw back in. You'd only need to take that screw out, when you are cleaning the gun. You've got it on a workbench, so it's not really a big problem. Now I'm going to half cock it and bring it down. And it doesn't hurt these guns to snap them. A lot I don't do it that often. Okay. Again, the John Wayne load, half cock it. Okay, cylinders free. Again, you never spin the cylinders on these things like you see in the movies. Now what I have here are some dummy rounds. I use these in all calibers. I make these myself. You notice the primer's been fired long ago. I've got it drilled out, no powder in it, just a bullet to demonstrate. Okay, empty chamber. I skip the second one, then I put the next 4 in. And say you get 5 in these, so that when you let the hammer down, it'll be resting on a, and I had 6, I'm sorry. Yeah, forgot that I have 6 of these actually made. So, but anyway, when you come back around, cock it, it'll come down on an empty chamber, and then it's safe to carry in a holster. Kind of thing. If you drop it, it's not going to fire. The firing pin will not be against a round. Let me get rid of that 6th one there. Forgot that I made another one of those. For a long time I just had 5 of these dummy rounds for the Colt single action. Okay, so load the first one, skip a chamber. 1, 2, 3, 4. Close the loading gate, cock it, and I know for a fact it's going to come down on an empty chamber. Of course, these are dummies anyway, but if you look up in there, you can see there's no brass up there under the firing pin. When I pull it, you should almost see the firing pin. Okay. Colt Single Action Army. A beautiful thing. A brand new one today. Looks essentially just like that, except for the wear and the color is going to be different. The color case hardening would still be intact, of course, and the blue would be very pretty. I think I've shown one of those in my videos, but they just have not changed over the years. Very little. I could cock it if these were real bullets, and of course fire it. I rarely fire this one. Haven't fired it in years. It's too much collector value really to mess with shooting it very much. But what else? You have fixed sights, of course, on these old Colts. You don't have any kind of adjustable sights. You just hope they're pretty close to being on, and they generally are. They mostly will shoot a little bit high. That's okay, and they're just fun to shoot. I think what else about this one? The trigger is, single action. For those, again, who are not familiar with these at all, they're called single actions because you can really just fire them one way. You have to cock the hammer to fire them. So bang, and once I fire it, that trigger is useless. It does nothing until I cock it. So you probably see people with their fingers in the trigger guards more often on these, just kind of how you hold them almost. You have to almost work at keeping your finger out of the trigger guard. If it's not cocked, and particularly if it's not loaded, there's very little risk. You can see very simply whether or not that gun is in a dangerous position. So, Colt Single Action Army. This one's 1884. Beautiful piece of history. Just takes you right back when you put that in your hand. So, I thought maybe some of you enjoy a closer look at that. Check out that big bore. And that's what, of course, it looks like if it's pointing at you. You can see the ends of those bullets. Those are dummy rounds, of course, but in the Wild West, they might not be dummy rounds, right? Colt Single Action Army. Beautiful piece of history. See y'all later.